us when you put us in that hole?" Sonny shrugged and positioned himself behind the wheel, suddenly growing sober. "We should talk, but right now isn't the time." His serious tone caused Rainey's imagination to run rampant. Was something wrong? Did he have some word about their jobs? Was the company about to fold? There had been all kinds of rumors suggesting major changes. Maybe Sonny had more information than she realized. Rainey breathed a sigh of relief when they pulled up to La Fonda. The Adobe Hotel was a home away from home for her tourists, and she was only too happy to turn them over to the Harvey house for the evening. "Give me your bag," she told her brother. They shared a 2-room apartment at a boarding house very near to La Fonda. "I thought that tour would never end." Rainey leaned into him good-naturedly and giggled. "But you're so handsome," she mimicked in the voice of the teenage tourists. "You'd better behave. Seems to me you get more than your share of attention when those dudes come in the unmarried male variety." Rainey shrugged and hoisted her own bag to balance Sonny's. "If God would just tell me which one he has in mind for me to marry, I'd happily take their attention." Sonny sobered. "How can you be so sure your husband will come by way of the tourists?" "I don't know that he will, but it seems as logical a conclusion as any," Rainey replied. "Should I wait to have dinner with you?" Sonny nodded his head. "Yeah, save me a seat. How about giving me an hour?" "Sounds good." She made her way to the 2-story adobe-over-brick boarding house and made her way upstairs. Rainey trudged down the long, carpeted upstairs hall. The housekeeper, Mrs. Rivera, kept sparsely furnished but very clean quarters, and Rainey appreciated it greatly. Juggling the bags, she slipped her key in the door and stepped inside with a sigh. She deposited her bag by the door and tossed her hat to the bed. Crossing the room, she opened the door that joined her space to Sonny's. She left his bag on the bed and went to open the window. Stretching her arms overhead as she walked back to her own room, Rainey couldn't suppress a yawn. Indeed, this tour had seemed so much longer than most of the others. Rainey pulled off her silver bracelets, then removed her squash blossom necklace of turquoise and silver. She placed the items on her dresser, noting her reflection in the standing mirror. No matter how careful she tried to be, it always seemed her fair skin managed to get burned and, in turn, add a few freckles to her already dotted nose. "Oh, bother," she said, unfastening her braid. Her long red blonde hair rippled down her back. "Why couldn't my hair be as dark as Sonny's?" Her twin brother had the most beautiful shade of auburn hair, and for some reason he tanned easily and never freckled. It was simply unfair. Noting that time was slipping away from her, Rainey hurried to clean up and dress for dinner. Even though she was no longer required to share her dinner with the tourists as the staff had been in the early days of the detour program, Rainey was still expected to dress nicely to represent the coveted Harvey name. "You are still an ambassador of the Harvey Company," her supervisor would often say. "But for how long?" Rainey murmured aloud. First rumor and then newspaper articles had revealed that the Harvey Company was planning to sell the detours. In fact, it would most likely be Major Clarkson, the manager of the transportation company from its inception, who would buy the company and run it. She walked back to La Fonda, where the bustle of tourists and workers was always a wonder to behold. Rainey was shown to a table for 4 in the back corner of the hotel restaurant. She'd no sooner taken her seat at the elegant table than she spied Duncan Hartford. Her heart seemed to skip a beat as she studied his handsome face and thick, dark hair. How she wished she could get to know him better. Since Sonny planned to join her soon, Rainey reasoned that it wouldn't seem out of line to invite Duncan to join them. He might as well have been one of the Harvey employees, since he worked at one of the museums where the company arranged tours, allowing Rainey to see him on a regular basis. He was practically family, she told herself. Never mind that Rainey found herself attracted to this man of archaeology and Indian research. Her breathing quickened as she tugged on the sleeve of her Harvey waitress. "Would you do me a favor and ask Mr. Hartford if he'd like to join me for dinner?" "Sure thing." She wove in and around the tables and guests to where Duncan was just about to be led to another table. Rainey watched as the girl appeared to explain the situation. For one horrible moment, Rainey feared he'd reject her offer. "Maybe if I pretend to read the menu," she thought, "then I won't seem so desperate." She picked up the menu and considered her choices.
"It was very kind of you to invite me to join you this evening."
Rainey looked up to meet Duncan Hartford's deep brown eyes. She swallowed hard. "I hope it didn't seem too, well, forward. I mean, we know each other pretty well, and my brother will be watching. He'll be joining us."
He laughed, and the sound was deep and throaty.
He pulled back the chair while the Harvey waitress filled their glasses with ice water. Rainey felt rather silly. Her words seemed all jumbled, and while they made perfect sense in her head, they didn't seem so accurate when they came out of her mouth.
"Would you like to order now?"
the Harvey girl questioned. "My brother should be joining us shortly," Rainey indicated, "but I'd very much like to go ahead and start with some tea."
"That sounds good to me," Duncan replied.
The waitress disappeared, leaving Rainey feeling rather uncomfortable in the silence. She'd long admired this man, but how could she make that clear without sounding like one of Sonny's young admirers?
"Oh, there you are,"
Sonny suddenly said, coming from behind her.
"I can't stay. I need to help a friend of mine get his car running. Do you mind?"
Rainey swallowed hard. When she'd thought Sonny would be a part of their company, she hadn't felt quite so awkward. "You still have to eat."
"I'll grab a sandwich at home,"
Sonny replied. He extended his hand to Duncan.
"You're Mr. Hartford from the Indian Museum, right?"
Duncan shook his head.
"Yes, but please call me Duncan. I've seen you at the museum, but since I generally wait with the touring car, I haven't had much of a chance to get to know you."
He glanced at his watch.
"I'm sorry, Rainey. I really need to get over there."
"That's all right. You have a good night, and I'll see you in the morning." He gave a little wave and hurried out of the dining room. Rainey could only think to smile and apologize. "I'm really sorry. If you feel it inappropriate to stay—"
"Not at all. We're both adults, and we're obviously both hungry,"
he said with a hint of amusement in his voice.
"So is Sonny not staying?"
the Harvey waitress asked as she passed their table. "No, he had to tend to another matter," Rainey replied. The waitress wrote down their orders, then went off to tend her other tables. Rainey felt the discomfort of not knowing what to say. She knew Duncan Hartford from his work at the Indian Museum and Art Gallery, but she didn't know him all that well. What she did know was that she thought him one of the most handsome men she'd ever seen, and she enjoyed his kind and gentle nature when he dealt with the demanding tour groups. "I've long admired your Scottish brogue," she said out of desperation. "My family is also from Scotland."
"Truly?"
Duncan asked, his tone revealing his surprise.
"I was actually born here in the United States, but my father is a Methodist minister, and the call took him to the land of his ancestors to preach. We moved shortly after my birth and lived there for 12 years. I've refined my speech a bit since returning. I suppose an absence of nearly 20 years should alter the cadence and intonations rather completely, but," he said, leaning in closer, "I can roll my R's in a right bonny fashion if I've a mind to do it."
He emphasized his brogue, making Rainey laugh. The waitress arrived, and in perfect Harvey fashion served their meals. The Harvey girl made certain they had everything they could possibly need, then left them to the privacy of their meal. Rainey looked up with uncertainty. "Would you like to say grace?" Duncan threw her a look of admiration.
"I would like it very much,"
He murmured a prayer and blessed the food, leaving Rainey at peace.